Well, hello again, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I am back. I started off a little while ago and I stopped it before beginning because I had not updated the information about what we're going to talk about. I'm actually getting to a point where I'm thinking about what am I going to say and wanting to at least have some description, of that intention. It's Friday, 30th of December of the year 2022. And I will start a couple things. The the video from yesterday's live stream, I downloaded, then I started watching it and discovered that first my the Meek's prayer that I premiered yesterday. I played it. Actually, I did not, in the sharing of the screen, I did not click include audio. And so the visual showed up so you could read it, but it was no audio. And I was quiet. So my mic was on, but I didn't say anything. And so, anyway, you could read it, and that was cool. I mean, it was what it was, not what I planned, though. And the other thing was somewhere later on in the video, I'm talking about something, and literally my mic stopped, but there was my background audio, which I'm not going to turn it on right now, but my background audio played, but I didn't say anything. And no, I was talking, but there was actually no audio from my mic. So I have to presume my mic is on, but that's what happened. So what I want to do, I'll do a couple things. One today is I'm going to play the Meek's prayer again. In time, I'm going to actually pull it out. It actually already exists out, so to speak, where I could put it up as its own video. I think is something that's going to be good to talk about for one thing, or to stimulate new or different thinking. I don't really think there's anything new under the sun. I think everything that exists, but some ideas take on some more popularity. May not even be popular. Like, to me, at least, war is not a popular idea, but it's certainly something that many people are. It's an idea that people are familiar with, and therefore they tend to accept the inevitability of it. But I'm not. I don't agree with that. At least from where I sit, from what how I see things, war is not something that is inevitable, and in fact, it's not even necessary. However, if people are convinced that it's necessary, then the people that believe that, well, then they'll likely give themselves reasons to do it. But it's not to their benefit, in spite of the fact that some people see themselves as winners and others as losers. And then perhaps that's part of the real problem, because that's what leads people into the uh, the activities and the dynamics that cause um, I want to say schisms to occur, gaps and chasms between people and their relationships, and that even includes one's relationship with oneself. So, what I'm going to do, though, for now, is I'm going to start the Meek's prayer. It's a little over 4 minutes, and I'm going to presume that the audio is on. And when I see this later, I'll know. But I do know that the sharing of the screen and sharing the audio is has been checked. So we're oh yeah, it's all queued up, isn't it? Okay, so here goes. Let's oh, yeah, it is. It is going on. Okay, so here goes. I'm gonna start the Meek's prayer. Uh-oh. There we go. I guess I'm not. Oh. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to pull it back. I'm going to run it again. There we go. Got some audio now. No, audio and some video. I forgot to turn my camera back on. So I did that in 2012, and um, I may have had it up on my first YouTube site. I may have mentioned that I had a channel before, and that I had about 600 videos on there, which were taken down in 2019 prior to the activities that pretty much occupied most people's minds from beginning of 2020 till even the beginning of this year. And to some extent, it lingers around ready to rear its, I'll say, bogus head at any time. Anyway, that is part of this thing. And that's part of this. One of the things about consciousness, I talk about consciousness, and consciousness is well, I think is not, I think, consciousness is central to virtually everything that we do or do not do, what we experience, what we don't experience, the things that we have, so to speak, that are a part of our life. And I'm not talking, I say things, but I'm really talking about the whole spectrum of our life. Having things and yet having a quality of life are not, um, they don't necessarily go hand in hand. For example, I mean, we do have what would be considered a materialistic um, bias in our present cultural, social consciousness. This is one reason why there's so much concern, so much attention focused on this thing called money and all things economic and financial and material, because money, as it is presently used, is essentially a gateway to the access and the acquisition of the various things that we need in order to create a lifestyle of our own choosing. And so money should be neutral. And this has been part of many videos that I've done. But money is not neutral, and it's becoming even less uh, neutral in our present day and age, because it is, you could say it is created by everyone, but it's only managed by a small group of people. And yet, most people think of money as being neutral. And again, I'm saying it's not, but I didn't have that point of view until Bitcoin came around. And well, it came around in 2008, 2009. I didn't come to that party until 2017. But when I did take note and notice of what Bitcoin was, and particularly what it does, people have been poo-pooing Bitcoin, I mean, cryptocurrencies. People who are in the um, conventional financial and monetary space, they have been poo-pooing it. They can't anymore, but they were poo-pooing it in the beginning because it does something. The reason they poo-poo it, they call it a crypto currency, and that is not real. It doesn't exist. There are no physical things. And see, they don't have to be quote unquote physical. It does do something, and it does something that is valuable to people. As long as there are enough people who find value in what Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency does, there will be value there. But it's not because Bitcoin has value. It's because there is a constituency of people who find value in what it does. And these things are not said, particularly by people who are doing their best to keep, I'll say, the masses at bay, keep them in the present system, and more so in the present thinking that the present system that they're familiar with is safe, is secure. Um, I don't think people even think about its neutrality, but that's going to change too, because as things have been happening and going on, because the value, the purchasing power, the value of the central conventional currency has continued to decline. And this is for the last 100+ years. It has been on the decline from the establishment of the central banking system. And so, in our case, the Federal Reserve Bank, but um, the Federal Reserve Bank, which is a private organization, is connected to other central banks around the world, which are themselves are connected to a central organization. The Federal Reserve is part of, and people say that it's a private company, so to speak, but it's connected to a network of others that are still run by essentially the same people. And so money has not been neutral for a long time. It has been manipulated for a long time, as well as other things that have been done, uh, even in America. 1933, an edict was put out by the federal government, by the people who run the federal government. I'm getting past the institutional thing. You start looking past the institution, and it gets down to its people. It's all people. Not only that, it's a small group of them, especially when you look at today, it's 8 billion of us around here, and including them, okay? But when you start thinking that those 8 billion people don't have any more or less power than anyone else, then it gets down to how are we using our power? What power do we think we have versus what do we really have? And these are, to me, the things that actually determine or influence the quality of our life. It influences what we are able to attain, what goals are we able to affect and create within the time that we're here. And it also gets down, again, these are conventional habits of thinking. And so, if you want to change your world, if you want to change your own experience, you got to be willing to look at how do you think about things right now, because how you think now is totally involved with what you're experiencing. And so, if we want to change our experience, we're going to have to first of all look at how we're thinking and see what can we modify, because it's not just thinking, obviously, but our actions, what we say and what we do, are a direct result of how we think, and to the positive and to the negative, to the uh, chaotic and to the organizing, to the beneficial. And so, or you can say the harmful and the beneficial. If we want to change our way of living, our quality of living, then we need to be willing to step into some unfamiliar territory. We're going to have to, even if you're going from a point of destitution to a point of, um, you know, sufficiency. I'll say that, where you have enough. I like to say, and one of the things that I aspire to is to have enough, a large enough flow of income, no matter for what I want, when I want it, no matter how much it is. I don't need to be a millionaire, but if what I need is $1 million, then it's because it's something I want. I have a purpose for, and I want to be able to. I want the access to those funds, and I also don't want to have to borrow from anyone. And the fact of the matter is, this is possible. Now, I have talked about. A lot of people have seen me talking about the drip platform because it really has been a godsend for me. But after I learned about drip, which I still am involved in, I have some funds in that. I learned about CoopCrowd, a crowd what's called a crowdfunding platform, but it is operated on a totally different principle. It is not an investment type of platform. It is the guy that whose video I saw when I first learned about Drip, for example. He talks about how investing is a solo sport. Well, it really is not a solo sport. We think of ourselves as being discrete units of life, but we're not solo. Everyone is interconnected. Everything is dependent on everything else. Everyone is interdependent on everyone else. The thing about it, the way we tend to think in this, I'll call it what, this dualistic way of looking at things, um, self, not self, good, bad, up, down. There's this sense of like, unlike, etc. It supports this idea of discreteness, where and independence. But there are no independents. We are interdependent, and so the gains that people have been able to receive, for example, even with drip, and I'll show my drip screen, but there's this is not. I'm going to show a few things, as it goes along with that. This is my drip screen right now for people who are familiar with that. Uh, I've got 8,000 drip now, and the price of drip, the one drip token has been um, fluctuating. Is subject to fluctuation, but is subject to fluctuation based on what people are putting into it and what people are taking out of it. And so it has, uh, I talked about this, how the price of the token itself, and it's a beautiful platform because I bought about 60 some odd drip a little over a year and a quarter ago, some in September of 2021, and the price at the time was maybe $6, something like that. And it went, or $7 or whatever. It was something, and all that's checkable. But I got about 60 some odd drip for that 300 some odd dollars that I put in. And I have hardly put anything else in since then. I think once I did put some extra funds in, but in the, proportionally, it wasn't significant. Con- Looking at what I started with and what I have right now. Now, this particular platform will, when you purchase those tokens and you put them, you could say in escrow on the site itself, your principal actually is gone. What it does is that it will take whatever you have as a balance in principal, and it will turn back to you 1% of that amount per day for 365 days. So for 1 year or 365 days, 1%, it will pay you back 3.65 times what you put in. So, first of all, when you're looking at um, conventional banking, where a high yield certificate, where you're putting your funds in and letting it sit there maybe for 5 years, and they will pay you back. If it's a high yield one, it may pay you back 2% a year. So here you go with drip. You put your principal in, and 1% a day it pays you out. And 24 hours after you put that in, it's paying you got 1% available. But your principal, whatever you put in, is essentially locked. It's gone. You are going to get back from the system itself, and you're getting it back in the form of drip tokens. Now, the value of those tokens will are also subject to change and up and down. Now, the other part of drip, since I only started with 60, and this was just a year and a few months ago now, the other option you have is you can either claim your value as it comes out, as it becomes available. Okay, so what's available, you can claim it, or you can what's it called hydrate, and that would be you would be compounding, and so therefore you can up the principal amount that it is working under. So when you up it, and as since I started with 63, and you see I've got 8,333 now. I didn't put more money in. Like I said, I did at one point put something in, but it wasn't significant in this scheme. But essentially, it will give you back. So, for example, every 24 hours right now, $83 or not 83 8.83.33 83 and a third drip are deposited here every 24 hours. And it's done every few minutes. You'll see this number is going up as I talk. So it's not like it's just tick tick like a clock. It's more so a hum, because you can see right now it just continues to go up. That's pretty cool. I can hydrate this. I can take it out. This is what I can have. That's what's available. The principle is in drip. It will stay in drip. The other beauty of this, as more people use this platform, is in the possibility of the token itself, the drip token, going up in value. Since it has been quite uh, an extended, what they call bear market, then the willingness or the inclination of people to put funds into these types of platforms has waned for a little bit, although it appears is that's changing. Uh, you got waves, you got ebbs and flows. Well, there's certainly been a huge ebb, not, I mean, so much of an ebb that the drip token, which went from last year from about $7, $8 when I first started it in September, to a high of almost just under $200 for one token. Now, if you can imagine, if that price was there right now, and I'm getting 83 drip a day at I think it was $190 at its peak, but all along the way from 70, 80, 90, whatever, that's really nice. Well, some people were getting that amount. Okay. They were in earlier. They talked to people. You can see I've only invited 3 people who are direct to me, in terms of you call it a team. And some of those people have actually invited others who under them. So if you have referrals, that's another way that you can accelerate the amount of funds that you get and the amount of accruals. And this is, what can I say? This is quantum. This is orders of a magnitude better than the current system in terms of what's available and how funds can be created. Funds that you have some one access to, as well as they're yours, because there's some decentralization here, in the sense that they come to you, you make the decisions. These are some of the things that, well, they didn't even exist with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin, in what it did, made it clear that there were other ways of earning funds. And because it's decentralized and because it protects, Bitcoin is a blockchain of its own. And the other thing is that it's a record. It's a record of stores of value. Essentially, it's a record of the value that people have exchanged between each other. And so when we've been in the habit of simply receiving such value and then automatically sending it to a third party, and that can be a bank, that can be whomever, and putting it under their care, so to speak. This is where our problem. This is where our problems. This is where our vulnerability has been, because again, money has not been impartial, because the people who run the monetary system are themselves not impartial. So that's been one of the things. And yet, when I learned about CoopCrowd, before I even go there, Drip is is unconventional, but it's still an investment type of mentality. So, as Stunner Breezy says, investing is a solo sport, and I've just already said it's not solo. It just appears to be that it is interdependent, because what he has gained, or anyone who is in here has gained, has been due to others putting their funds in massively, and and in large amounts, because your value, you're putting value in, you're putting your own sense of value into this, and it is to one extent redistributed. You're putting it in and it's held, and it is redistributed to other members. And then also some redistributed back to you. But that is what is actually going on. And the thing about this, though, is that other factors also influence this. And the recent string of events that have appeared to affect the cryptocurrency space have had, I want to say, a cooling impact on people's interest in and willingness to put funds into crypto projects, as well as to keep it there. The other thing is that just simply costs and rising costs and everything else has also been a factor where people they're taking funds out of their crypto accounts so they can live, they can do things that they need to do. So when I came across CoopCrowd, which functions on a different principle, it functions on the principle of cooperation. And by creating what's called a cooperative, and here's my CoopCrowd site, and all members have their own site like this. When you join CoopCrowd, you get a site like this. You click on there, and you fill out the information, and my little link, my sponsor ID is right there, etc. But everyone, right then and there, you get one of these sites as well. And so, but the CoopCrowd site itself, the CoopCrowd platform, operates on the principle of cooperation. And more so, and specifically, it's the cooperative. And a cooperative, which is not that well known, I think, in our society today. But a cooperative is one where every member, okay, you got to add it. There you go. So a cooperative is one where each member is doing the same thing. This is a system that moves value among its members, but it requires each member to put a fixed amount in, and then one is protecting that value, but it is protecting it in such a way the members get their value, not by putting more and more in, but simply by inviting 3 people who are willing and committed to doing the same thing they did. So you put funds in, you get some tokens. They could be like Bitcoin in this sense, but in the case I say like Bitcoin in the sense that they are not physical. Okay, and you don't turn that off. And the tokens you use to you extend to 3 people who you've talked to, you've presented, they've done their own due diligence, they've seen what the system actually does, or they've been interested enough to see it and then evaluate for themselves whether they wish to do this. But they are doing this not expecting the system, the platform, to do all their work for them. It's going to do some of the work in the same way that Drip does the work that it does. However, the income that you receive from CoopCrowd, first of all, it comes as a function of simply inviting those 3. And then secondly, I'm saying inviting them, but I'm saying by default, I mean that they are activating and they are in putting funds in to do the same thing. The minute a person accepts your invitation and purchases the tokens, acquires the token by putting a deposit in the CoopCrowd, every time that happens, you receive. So every time someone activates, the inviter receives. And the thing is, the inviter receives up to 10 levels, so to speak, because when you make a deposit, you put that in, CoopCrowd keeps track of that, and at which point in time you are actually making a deposit. You are essentially sending funds to 10 people, the person that invited you plus 9 others. You get the tokens. 3 people join, if you will. They activate, they join because of the 3. You've sent 3 invitations out, you receive from those 3. And now they are going to get 3 tokens, and they are going to send those out to 3 people. And so when the 3 people that they invite join, they receive, and you do too, and so on and so on. However, while you're sending your donation, your deposit, your offering, whatever you want to call it, goes to 10 people, what you're setting up, though, is the framework by which 3 people, and then 3 times 3 people, and then 3 times 9 people, and 3 times 27 people. All of this continues. Actually, I can't say on its own, but it is kind of how it happens. You have to, needless to say, be confident within yourself, but you're not really setting up where you're going to be putting out a whole bunch of funds. If you understand how CoopCrowd works and the principle of cooperation, and how this is actually returning to you something that, frankly, no other platform actually does. It returns to you an in-kind gift. When you put something in the CoopCrowd, you actually receive in the intent and the method of your giving, you receive it back many, many, many times over. But it's conditional on simply inviting 3 people, and then being present and helping and assisting in whatever way is needed for those 3 to also invite 3 too. Because in so doing, you are also teaching those three how to do the same thing that you did, and you do it so that they can teach the people that they invite, the three people, to do the same thing that they did. We are passing on knowledge. We are helping people to onboard into a system that actually has its own wallet, for one thing. It has the ability, I'm going to pull this back a little bit more. There we go. It has the ability to help people to build a substantial income, a substantial supply of income, and an ongoing one. And the thing that makes it, that differentiates it, is that unlike drip, for example, and again, I'm using drip because it does work. This is a super system. But you have those dependencies. You have the dependencies of the amount of funds that are in the platform. You have the dependencies of the amount that you are able to put into the platform. You have all the work that you have to do to compound, whether you're hydrating, whether you are staking, you do and manage all these other things. And there's not a complaint. It's a different kind of work, first of all. With CoopCrowd, and then if you are an influencer, as they call it, then you are also setting up where you're talking to people. There are folks that have been in drip, for example. Like I said, I have three. Okay, and there are people who have 100 direct. There are people that have even more than that. Some people have hundreds because they have talked it up, and that's been part of the income, the accrual that they've done. I didn't choose to do this. However, this is what you can do, and yet the dependencies are still there. The price of the token was it was. I talked about it being $7 and stuff like that. It's about 70 cents right now. What is it right now? 85 cents. A day ago or 2 days ago, whatever, it was 61. So, and yesterday it was 91. So it's at 85 cents right now. Okay. And when you're looking at it even being at $7, which it was just a few months ago, the idea of maxing out your drip wallet at 200, getting 270 some odd drip a day, and at $7 a piece, that's really nice. That's transformational for most people. Even if at $10 a day, that's transformational. At $5 a day, it's transformational for most people. Now, in my case, by May of this year, at present, this wallet would be maxed out, 27,000 some odd drip, and it'll say down here the maximum payout is 100,000 drip. But I cannot take anything from this, so it will max out, and then once it gets to that, I will no longer be able to hydrate. But I will only be able to simply withdraw, and I will be free to create another wallet and start the process over. But you got the dependencies. You got the dependencies on what is the token, each drip token worth. And again, I expect it to go up, and that will be nice. But with CoopCrowd, you don't have those dependencies here. When your funds come, first of all, you only have to have 3 that are active. But, so here's the dependency with CoopCrowd. Your 3 also need to be active. Now, the thing is, when you have 3 active members and their 3 are also active, that means you have 12 people who are active CoopCrowd members. And therefore, you are now receiving, first of all, more than you put in. Okay. That's the first thing. You are receiving um, direct income from the people that you introduced directly to this. You are also receiving indirect income from the people that they invited. And then, thirdly, when when you've got 3 on directs and you have 9 indirects, not only are you receiving from them, because you receive it every 28 days from all of them, and the people that they invite, same thing occurs. It's one system, it's one way, so to speak. And therefore, and everything, all of the value is pegged to the US dollar. So there you go there. Everything that you put in and everything that comes out is pegged in value to the US dollar. It's not pegged in the value of a cryptocurrency that's subject to fluctuation. Okay, that's another step. The other part of this is that once you have your 3, step 1, and then your 3 have 3, that's step 2, you start to receive additional income that has been essentially held back until you achieve those 2 steps, those 2 milestones. You have 3, your 3 have 3, and then you're getting income. Even if that bonus wasn't there, even if that additional store wasn't there, you would be getting more. And then when your 3's 3, that 9 start inviting so that they can get their 3, and then etc., you're getting more there too. However, when you have 3 and your 3 have 3, you're 12, you're receiving bonuses that have been held back until that milestone, at which point in time your income continues to, it may start this way, it may start that way, and then it goes like that. That's what you're looking for. And that is also if you don't do anything else. It's going to be, and when I say anything else, it's not like I'm doing this to recruit and recruit and recruit. I spend more time talking about the idea, our sense of value, our sense of wealth, and wealth is associated with our sense of value, our value of ourselves. And I'm not talking in terms of monetary. I'm talking more so in terms, I'm just going to say it, of our lovability. When people do not feel that they are loved, that they are lovable, generally people either they're not happy, or you can flip it and be so negative just to try to act as though it doesn't matter to you. That's another thing that people do. But ultimately, you either feel you're lovable or not, but more so you're putting it out. You're being lovable. And generally speaking, if you're not feeling it, then you're not being it. And again, these are things that CoopCrowd actually causes people to exercise. You've got to exercise all of the higher aspects of being human. I mean, courage, patience, tolerance, love, willingness to listen, joyfulness, enthusiasm. Who's enthusiastic about war, really? Other than the folks who profit monetarily from it. Otherwise, and maybe not monetarily alone, maybe from a sense of power. But otherwise, who gets a Jones off of war? And getting a Jones off of something that is causing a whole bunch of distraughtness and desolation, if it may appear to be a benefit, it's not one. It's only one in appearance. So these are things. So I talk about this stuff now in part because um, it's a different way of doing things, and it actually is a faster, more efficient way of getting the thing that you really want. I'm not saying this versus drip, for an example, and drip is a small piece of the financial uh, ecosystem, but it is in spite of its unconventionality, if that's a term, unconventionalness. In spite of that, it does work for one thing, and as more people learn about it, more people will put funds back in. I'm sure of that. At least I expect that that's going to happen. But Co-op Crowd works on a different, again, platform principle. It is it is calling on different parts of the individual, of each member for that matter. And in so doing, this is how each person starts to grow in ways that actually mean something, that can actually turn, it's not just this life around. There's more than this life. There's no one here that will be here, quote unquote, forever. But each one of us are forever beings. We think of ourselves, we think of our physicality as being who and what we are. And then we start judging and or limiting ourselves according to literally what someone else has told us about ourselves. Someone who is not us. Because within each person, there is another voice. And there's the voice, some people think there's the voice of the ego. I don't think it's about ego. I think it's about ideas and thoughts that we have inherited or embraced that actually are not based on truth. And yet we think that they're us or they're ours. They're not. There's also a voice that speaks truth. It's our source. It's our higher self. It's our inner knowing by whatever name you use. And we have the choice at all times to follow that, to listen to it, to listen for it, or to ignore it and follow either the imprints that we've become accustomed to doing and following or listening to, um, or seeing the folly of them and choosing something else. As I see it, at least, Co-op Crowd is a way that you can exercise those higher qualities, those transformational qualities of your being by being more courageous, by being willing to change your story, for one thing. You change your thinking, you change your story. You think differently, you will come up with different words by being willing to step into the unfamiliar. If you're used to not having enough, or you're used to asking others for what you need and having thought that you don't have the ability yourself to provide for yourself. You do have it. Now, do you embrace it is the question. Are you willing to embrace it if someone encourages you? There are so many ways that we can change our life by simply changing our story, but before that, change our thinking and being willing to look into something with a fresh eyes. Because if you're negative or inclined to seek negative opinions about things, you'll find it on Co-op Crowd too, or about Co-op Crowd. But you'll find out about everything. Drip has been a super activity for me. But there's plenty of people that are negative, even as the price has been going down. Sometimes it's not that I totally understand what people or why people do it, but they do. And perhaps in that respect, they are doing it to give us something else to think about. In the same way that I'm doing this to give people something, maybe who are habitually negative, something else to think about. Because there are consequences to every way of thinking. The only point is that when we are following our higher pursuits, I'll say, when we are being courageous. And what is being courageous? Is being courageous, being a badass and going out and vanquishing this, or you know, looking for the bad guys and stuff like that. What's happening inside here? There are ways to help people see life in a different way. And you've got to have some empathy for what they are doing, even if you don't like it, even if you don't agree with it. And on the other hand, we also understand, or need to understand, that everything happens not simply for a reason. Yes, it's easy to say things happen for a reason, but there's something more going on. Things happen by means of what would be considered resonance, by the vibrational affinity of the people who have come together in that particular experience. Nothing happens by chance in that regard. You have free will, but everything that occurs is happening because it is the right experience for each one, whether they know it or not, or whether they like it or not. And so our experiences are not, and they do not flow for the purpose of, punishment and stuff like that, except as people believe in punishment. When you believe in it, then it becomes part of your experience. Doesn't necessarily mean it's part of someone else's. But if someone believes in exploiting a whole bunch of folks for what appears to be a monetary or material gain, they'll come to their own point of realization at some point, at some win. So this is what I want to do. I will say before I'm done, I'm about to finish up, and that is I'm working on a few things. I'm going to finish editing my video. I am finishing up. I got another 36 hours or so, and I started a 6-day fast the day after Christmas. So I have not eaten this week. I've done working on just a water. Very interesting. Just a water fast, a water only fast. So I haven't eaten for a few days. And I've had some super insights in that time, and it's something that I have begun doing at the end of my year. So after Christmas, then I won't eat. This is my 3rd year doing it. And now that I noticed that it's been my 3rd year, I know I did it last year, but turns out I did it the year before. It's something that I'm going to do. It's kind of like letting go of the last year and setting my mind and my sights on what's now and what's next, first of all. So fasting at the end of a year is a tradition I would certainly, I'd highly recommend, first of all, especially all the stuff that I was eating. I enjoy eating. Yeah, food is great. I have a enjoyable time with that. But still, there are things that we can do to kind of focus not just our attention, but also focus our energies, our thoughts, our signal. For example, you want your signal to be bright. You want your signal to go out far, to touch people in a positive and beneficial way. I'm saying you, but I'm speaking for myself. That's what I want. And so I do trust that cooperation is a way to make a fundamental change that, frankly, no other method that I can see does. So I am doing things. I'm working on a couple websites And so those take, I'm editing video, I'm working on a couple websites that will actually be places where this idea can be forwarded and brought out even more. I'm also working on, I created a Discord and I'm learning about that. All the stuff I'm learning about. Yesterday, I talked about this mid journey um, tool, I'll call it, for writing down text and essentially, let's see here, writing down text and from that actually creating images, which are super. Okay. I'm just taking you to the front door. We're not going to go in at this point in time, but I'm learning how to use this. Look up some sites uh, for mid journey, and you will start seeing. And I say look up some sites. That was midjourney.com, but look up some videos that on it. And then the other is there we go. The other is Chat GPT, and this is my Chat GPT account, and these are topics that I'm pursuing at this moment that I am developing. This too is an AI interface, and this one you can, well, let's see, you can augment your prompts with relevant word. You write in sentences here. You can write question. You can say, you can, whatever you can think of. And this thing literally um, will answer you. And it's going to be searching through a very, very large database of information. You know, people are in many ways hopeful and or fearful of artificial intelligence. Some people put a lot, I'd say even too much importance on what AI is and what it can do. And in so doing, they place themselves, make themselves subject to its limitations, because AI can be can't be any more aware than the ones who programmed it. And so, and I've seen the evidence of that in both Mid Journey and in this Chat GPT. But on the other hand, they're still really super tools. The thing about it is ultimately the intelligence, the real intelligence, is the one that's supposed to have the last answer, the last word. And that real intelligence is within every one of us. We have to be using it and exercising it. And that's really important. Then we can use something like a Chat GPT, I think, to actually take everyone and all of our work. It certainly cuts a whole bunch of time down. It's like CoopCrowd cuts down a whole bunch of things on the economic side. This is on the informational side, on the images as well as on text. I'm working on some websites, several websites, for example, and I've got conversations here. I've actually asked for. I'm even looking at possibility of book, and I asked for some. I put some information in, some queries, and asked for a suggested outline for a book. And gosh, give me an out on quantum physics, on a book on quantum physics. Uh, this is just for a book on boom. This one. It's unclear which book on quantum physics I'd like for outline. Okay, so I need to give it something more clear. But look at this stuff. even with the unclarity, it's giving me some options so that I can clarify and focus my question. This is so cool. So you see what I mean? This is a super deal. I had some more specific, yeah, without more information about which book you're. Oh gosh, let's see. I'm not going to go in there because see, we'd be going on this for a lot longer. This is Chat GPT, a super tool. Okay, Mid Journey is another super tool. And I think the last thing that I'm going to say about Co-op Crowd before I sign off here, I've talked about cooperation. I've talked about what it does, and I do repeat myself, but I do it mainly because it's accessible to anyone who's willing to step outside of their present, say misconceptions. But in addition, and I say misconceptions, this all applies to me. I'm not placing judgment on anyone. I've taken my time to do this, but the more I do it, and the more I look at how it works. Plus, I mean, I'm using it. When people join, I get something. When they join, when people join with them, they get something. The thing about it is that people are easily discouraged, and for whatever their particular reasons are. And so I have needed to do two things. One is to be more discerning in terms of who I invite, and secondly, do what I can to provide them with more information. One, at least to shore themselves up, in the sense that they at least or they aren't as easily discouraged. Or on the other hand, there's more information for people that they can share presentations with, and so they can make a decision. But in addition to that, the fellow that did my first presentation, his name is Greg Baldwin, and he created a site called Smarter Than Money, smarterthanmoney.com. And this site is essentially for support too, with information about Co-op Crowd, what it does, how it works, etc. Some reviews, some testimonials from people that have been in it, are in it. And in addition to that, if you sign up here, doesn't cost anything, but you put your email address in, stuff like that, you can actually go into the back of this place and there's information, new member orientation. There's also tools for doing presentations of your own. And in addition to that, we have a call, for example, every Saturday morning, 12 noon Eastern, and it's called the Locker Room. And just members only, and there are people on that Zoom call from all over the world. I mean, I'll say all of they're from Europe, they're from parts of Africa, the Caribbean, and the U.S. So far, that's it. Right now, it's just this is a small thing. This is a movement in the beginning, okay? But this has been created to support them too. If I log in here, let me see. Anyway, there are more tools that are actually available, and those tools. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Fortunately, I got that stuff there. So there's new member orientations, how to conduct they call it a VBR, virtual business review, how to activate your co-op wallet, and there's some other things too. This is a ongoing process, but trying to recall where this thing is that I'm looking for. So there's some videos to watch, and there are also some tools. That's what I was going for. These can be downloaded and actually used too. We have a couple, and some of them in Spanish now. The guy who is doing these translations is he's translating into Spanish, but he lives in Canada. So this is something that is happening, and again, it's worth doing. It's worth. This will help people change their lives in a way that, and faster than anything else that I have ever seen. And I've done this enough, I've been around it or within it enough to see that it works, but also that it'll work for people who do the work. It won't work for people who won't. So no point in getting in unless you're willing to invite three people and stick with it until you got three, and help them to be of the same mind so that they stick with it. That's how we succeed. But in so doing, everyone enhances their financial situation. They end up having enough. They get enough, they get a flow of income coming in that doesn't stop. That Nothing else does that. So I invite you to follow, use my link below to join CoopCrowd and to reach out to me. The things that I'm doing with these other websites are not about CoopCrowd particularly. CoopCrowd is just a piece of an overall change, okay, that I'm looking at. It certainly includes wealth, the idea of gaining and creating wealth instead of trying to rob from Peter to pay Paul. And what happens when you do that? Robbing from Peter. Listen to our aphorisms. Robbing Peter to pay Paul. And what's happened? Well, Peter's unhappy. Paul may be happy, and the person that did the other have simply put themselves in jeopardy, and they are no better off than they were in the first place. Maybe Peter would have done something to them, or they thought, but ultimately that's a win-lose situation. The cool thing I like is that, I look for win-win situations. I look for win-win-win situations. They do exist. This is one. This is probably the only one I've seen that is so accessible to so many people. And it's the power of cooperation, people to people, versus thinking that we're not investing money. We're investing love is what we're doing. We're investing courage. We're investing the things that actually matter, and we're exercising them. We are strengthening them. And this is how we change the world. Your self-esteem goes up. It shouldn't have been down in the first place, but the way our society is, uh, I think it's kind of by design to simply wear on the consciousness of of people, so to speak. It makes them a lot more malleable and willing to cooperate with some things that they really should not. It's not in their best interest. It has not been in their best interest. So, with all that said, I'm going to check out. I am unlikely that I'm going to do this tomorrow, being New Year's Eve. But that having been said, I will wish you a amazing New Year's. I'd like to see this as the beginning of a great year. Again, there are people that are looking with trepidation for what's coming, and I'm happy about what I see. But I'm giving energy to that vision that's within me. So no one else does see it yet. That's why I have to work on it and love it and bring it out so people can see. But you having enough to get what you want, to live the life you want to live, to not be concerned about someone taking from you because you have a sufficient flow, a substantial and sufficient flow, an ongoing flow of income. When you have that going, I'll tell you, you get a little bit more unconcerned about the fears that most people are concerned about. I mean, whether it's rising gas prices, the price of rent and housing, whether it's getting a house or staying in it from being evicted, all that kind of stuff. If you want to get to a place where you want to buy a house, but you don't want to be borrowing, this is the world I see. I want to have enough, no matter how much it is, and to do whatever I want with it. I don't want to go into debt. Who does not conceive of and look at making a major purchase without automatically figuring they got to go and qualify for someone else to give them the funds or to extend them the funds, and they pay 2 or 3 times the value of what they got for that privilege. If I'm projecting a world that, let's say when I'm done with this forum, and if I were coming back here, I want that to be how it was normal. I don't want to be coming back to a place where people are having to, bow and supplicate themselves to some money god. Okay? We are the creators of the value. We have been the most ignored, dismissed, and disrespected by people who would not be where they are if it weren't for us. So I want to change that. And with that, I will thank you for watching. I will be back here when I'm back here, but it'll be sometime early next week. Anyway, peace. Be well, be prosperous, and I love you. You take care. Happy New Year's. Okay, let's take it on out. Yeah. All right now. See ya.